Melanie met Ryan in college, and while they were studying they spent a lot of time together. Over time, their friendship became a romantic relationship. And then Ryan proposed to her. By nature he was a modest guy, who studied diligently. He was fond of sports and healthy lifestyle and practically did not go to clubs and parties. Melanie was the same way, so they were very suited to each other. So it was no surprise that they decided to get married at an age when many of their peers prefer to have fun. But unfortunately, in addition to similarities in character, the couple had very different parenting. Although Melanie grew up in a small town, she was born into a large and close-knit family. Her parents raised 5 children. There was always joy and love in their home, and the mother, who was a simple housewife, had a good disposition. Ryan was brought up by his mother alone. She held a senior position in a large company and was used to being listened to and obeying her commands. The same style of communication she adopted in dealing with her own son. He was always strict with him and demanded unconditional obedience to the elders. Of course, she loved him and wanted him only good, but always thought she knew better what her son needs. Because of their different upbringing, Melanie and Ryan looked at situations and problems differently. Melanie treated life positively and looked for something good in all situations. And Ryan always looked at things soberly and looked for flaws and problems. But Ryan's mother was not thrilled about their relationship. She dissuaded her son from taking a rash act. The woman was sure that her son would not make a career because of his family life. Melanie herself did not pay any attention to the dislike of her mother-in-law, believing that her relationship with Ryan is stronger and their love will withstand all the squabbles and turmoil. Unfortunately, she soon regretted the fact that she had tied her fate to Ryan and so rashly thought their alliance was strong. Ryan betrayed her at the most difficult time. After knowing about the pregnancy, Melanie was over the moon. Her husband was also very happy. But sharing this happy news with his mother, he soon changed his mind. Lowering his eyes, he said that his mother advised them to postpone with the children, because they are still young and have just started to build a career. Melanie was shocked when she realized that Ryan offered her to get rid of the child. After that unpleasant conversation, they no longer talked about that. But there has been a little hiccup in their relationship. The mother-in-law was still unhappy, but she didn't say anything else either. Melanie simply decided that everyone needed time to calm down. She was sure that the birth of the baby would be a real blessing for everyone, including the disgruntled grandmother. But Melanie was not completely honest with her husband. A month after that conversation, she went for a scheduled ultrasound and there she got a surprise. It turned out she was going to have twins. Melanie was in real shock. He long thought whether to tell her husband. But after all, she decided not to tell anyone. She was afraid to cause even greater anger mother-in-law, and to ruin the shaky peace that reigned for a while in the family. Ryan was not present when his boys were born. He arrived the next day with his mother. After learning about the 2 boys, Ryan tried to look like a happy father, but Melanie could clearly see that he was shocked and confused. And her mother-in-law was just out of anger and took one look at her grandchildren and went out into the corridor, slamming the door loudly. Ryan seemed to wake up after his mother left. He hugged his wife and told her not to pay attention. His mother needed to adapt, because she was used to everything being as she wanted. After that, Ryan didn't come to visit his wife and children in the hospital, and he didn't even call her all those days. On the day she was to leave the hospital, Melanie waited for her husband for a long time. But no one came for her and the boys. Ryan's cell phone didn't answer. Closer to the evening, Melanie called a cab and drove home. As soon as she entered the house, she realized that Ryan was not at home. On the table there was a letter and a small wad of money. In the letter, Ryan apologized and said that he had rushed into marriage and moreover, was not ready to become a father. He wrote that he was a young man who had a career to build, not to change diapers for children. At the end he said that his mother helped him to get a good job at the new branch of the company in another city, so he could not visit her and the children, although he promised to help financially. He also paid the rent for the apartment for 2 months. At the end of the letter, he apologized again for everything, and especially for falling out of love with her and not living up to expectations. When she finished the letter, her legs buckled and tears welled up from her eyes. She cried from resentment, and she felt sorry for herself and her just-born babies. She barely slept that night, wondering what to do next. She realized that the best solution would be to return home to her mother. Of course, it was a shock for her parents. But not because their daughter had returned with the babies. It was just that Melanie had never told them about the difficulties she had faced after her marriage, and they thought her daughter had a loving husband and a perfect marriage. The first 6 months were a living hell for Melanie. It seemed to her that she was quietly going crazy and that the crying of the babies would never stop. Thanks to her mother's support, she survived this difficult time, and then it was easier. Ryan showed up 3 years later. Ex-husband has changed beyond recognition. He looked 10 years older, a little bit grayed out. And it was evident that he abandoned the healthy lifestyle he led before. Melanie did not even listen to him and just closed the door in front of him. 2 years later, she met Michael. The man came to her town to work as an agronomist for a local farmer. He had a contract for 2 years, but he stayed with Melanie for life. Michael replaced her son's father, and then they had a child together, an adorable little girl. Dear friends, if you are going through hard times and the betrayal of your loved ones, never despair. All bad things will come to an end sooner or later. Believe that a happy life awaits you ahead, because after the rain always appears the sun, and behind the darkest clouds there is a rainbow. Have a good day and see you all again.